Howdy, Immortalium here, and welcome to my anime/manga haul. You guys excited? I'm really excited about all this stuff. Basically, most of this stuff is continuations, at least in terms of the manga. So there isn't too much new stuff. There is a bit, and I'm sure you guys will be excited about that. But most of this stuff is stuff that's just simply continuing on what I've already been continuing before. So, not too much new stuff. But still, I hope you guys enjoy. So, first of all, let's start off with the Kickstarter stuff. So, as you guys know, I've been participating in the Tezuka Kickstarter campaigns. And I've gotten two bunch of Kickstarter stuff since last manga haul. The first Kickstarter stuff, I got 3 books. The first is Brave Dan, which I've actually already read and reviewed. Then I also got Clockwork Apple, which is a collection of short stories. If I'm correct, it's supposed to be very seinen-esque. Some really beautiful looking artwork and some really fascinating sounding stories. Like, for example, a Nazi lieutenant sentenced to life for war crimes. He expects to escape with his life, but hubris is his downfall. What does that mean? So, I'm quite interested in that. And then, of course, one part of the campaign was to fund a reprint, and that was of Barbara. Now, the good thing about this edition is that Barbara is actually, this edition of Barbara, I should say, has a higher quality paper than the original version. So that's very good. It makes me feel less guilty about not picking it up until now, because I've heard Barbara is a very good series. So I'm quite excited to read that. In comparison to the other Kickstarter stuff, which for some reason they've removed the page numbers now, Barbara still has its page numbers, which I much prefer. I have no idea why the others have removed their page numbers. I'll have to ask Digital Manga about that at some point. Anyway, very excited about those. And then the other part of the Kickstarter, the other Kickstarter, I should say. First of all, the main thing was of Storm Fairy, which is a short story collection. This time aimed at Shoujo. So it's a Shoujo manga. I think it has 3 short stories in it, and it's from the 50s, so it's got a much more, older style of art in comparison to, say, Clockwork Apple. Almost called it Clockwork Orange. But again, I'm not as excited about Storm Fairy as I am about Clockwork Apple, but I'm still very interested as a Tezuka fan to be able to read it. Then we've got Tezuka's adaptation of one of his favourite novels, Crime and Punishment, which is, oddly enough, they call it a seinen at the back, but I know for sure in the 50s there was no such thing as seinen manga, so I think that might be an error. But again, it's very hard to determine whether or not it's a shonen or a seinen, because it wasn't published in a magazine. This was actually published as a complete book when it was first printed. It'll be interesting. I've actually read the original Crime and Punishment, which I thought was a very good book. I thought it started out a bit slow, but it got quite interesting after a while. So it'll be interesting to see Tezuka's interpretation of that, particularly considering it's one of his favourite novels. And then perhaps the most beautiful book that I've picked up as part of the Kickstarters, the hardcover edition of Unico, which is a shoujo manga for children, but the artwork looks absolutely sumptuous. Like, first of all, I should point out, you guys might be looking at this and you might be saying, it's flopped? No, it's not flopped. Basically, Sanrio, I believe that was the company that published this originally. They're also known for doing Hello Kitty. They wanted this to get some kind of international release, and so their magazine that they released in Japan reads left to right. So the original release of Unico is actually left to right. So there's no error no flopping in regards to that. And also it's completely in color. So, for example, we have all of this, which looks absolutely sumptuous, as you can see. Some really gorgeous looking stuff here. Absolutely looks beautiful. Now, will the story hold up as good as the artwork? I do not know. It is a children's manga, so I'm not expecting it to be as deep as some of Tezuka's seinen works. But simply, as a look, it looks absolutely sumptuous. I'm quite looking forward to reading this. Those are all my Kickstarter stuff. I'm very pleased with what I've gotten so far. There hasn't been any Tezuka Kickstarters since these lot, but I am excited by, what's that one? Sakura Orange Road. Anyway, the one that they're doing now. I had never heard of that series, but it turns out to be a fantastic classic, so I do want to fund that at some point. Anyway, on to my next stuff. So all of the rest of the books I got from Book Depository with that 5% off voucher. So let's start off with actually some of the new stuff. Some of the stuff that isn't actually continuations. So some that I've been looking forward to checking out for a long time, and I waited until it actually got a complete release, would be, you guys probably know of Shigeru Mizuki. He was the guy who did Onward Towards the Noble Debts. He also did Nanamba, I think that's the name of the other one, but he's most known for doing Kitaro. He did a massive undertaking, which was Showa. As you can see, these are fat books. There's actually several of them, as you can see here. And basically what Showa refers to is Emperor Hirohito, basically his reign. In Japan, calendars are broken up by emperors, basically like Showa period. I believe the one we're in now is Heisei, or something like that. But anyway, the Showa period, it basically went from 1926 to 1989. And the cool thing is Shigeru Mizuki was actually alive for both when Hirohito came into power and when Hirohito passed away. So Shigeru Mizuki has written a huge kind of epic, I should say, which basically is like his semi-autobiographical. Basically about himself growing up in this period, as well as things that were happening at the time. There's a lot of crossover, if I'm correct, with Nanamba and Onward Towards the Noble Debts, because Nanamba is based on his childhood, which is covered in this, and then Onward Towards the Noble Debts has to do with World War II, or his experience in World War II, which of course will be covered by this. So there is a bit of overlap in regards to that, but even so, I'm heavily looking forward to it. I've heard that it is an absolute masterpiece, so I'm very excited about that. And actually, the artwork looks really, really good. It's really hard to believe that he drew everything with only one hand since he lost his arm. It was his left arm? He lost one of his arms, I know that, during World War II. Besides that, the only other new thing I picked up in terms of manga, well, it isn't really manga, I should say, actually. It's a light novel series, is the light novels of Before the Fall. Now, I've heard that these are supposed to be really, really good. I found it confusing that... Okay, so this one's called Before the Fall, which, you know, I've heard of. You know, there's a manga adaptation of it. But then this one, Kuklo Unbound, is apparently... That's actually a continuation of Before the Fall, which I just found a bit confusing. I wish Vertical, who are the ones who published these, had made it a bit more clear that this is related to this. I've heard many, many good things about it. I think they're meant to be like 90 years before the events of Attack on Titan. They're meant to deal with, like, I think the wall and the first creation of the maneuver gear. Overall, I've heard they're really, really interesting. And I want to support Vertical's kind of endeavors in terms of light novels. That means I'll be probably picking up Kizumonogatari at some point. I've heard good things about Kizumonogatari. I'm not overly excited by it, but you know, I do want to give the Monogatari series a try at some point, and considering how expensive the anime is, it's best to just start off on the novel, I think. But anyway, I'm excited to read these, and it'll be a nice little kind of diversion before I get back to the main series of Attack on Titan. So I believe that's all the new stuff. Besides that, I believe everything else is a continuation. But even so, I'm very, very excited about these. Let's start off with the thing that excites me the most. So, as you guys know, when I do my manga reviews, I have a trusty little friend to help me determine trim size. And for a long time, that little friend has been very lonely, just by itself. And that, of course, is Yotsuba. For a very long time, I haven't picked up any more Yotsuba, because even though I really enjoyed Volume 1, for a long time it was quite pricey for a single volume, basically €10. Which, I mean, considering how I got the first volume originally for €7, seemed to be very, very pricey. But the prices dropped recently, possibly due to euro becoming strong again. And so I decided I'd gorge myself a bit on 4 more volumes of Yotsuba. So that'd be like volume number 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I can see that number 5 is... Yeah, I think this is the one that introduces that little chap. which is a very popular little mascot. I've really been wanting to continue Yotsuba for a while, and honestly the price has been the only thing that's been putting me off, so I'm very excited to continue that on. After that, we have my continuation of Case Closed. Volume, what's it, number 6? Sorry, the show was actually pushing me in the back a bit. Volume number 6 actually ended on a cliffhanger of a case where a murder was committed, and we actually know who the culprit is, but he's covered himself up very well, and we have to see how Conan solves that. And it ends with him like, I think I understand how this was done, and I'm wondering how. So I'll be very excited to see how that resolves in number 7. And plus, just to give my overall opinions on Detective Conan, or Case Closed as it's called in English, even though it is very much standalone stories with very little continuation of, or progression of the main story, overall I'm enjoying it. I think it's a very nice change, to have a mystery manga. I like the art style, even if it's a bit kind of weird, like with the huge ears and the odd looking eyes. But overall, I'm having a great time reading Case Closed. So I'm just looking forward to continuing that on. After that, if we're going to stick with the Shonen Sundays, I'm continuing on my love with Ranma Half. This collects volumes 21 and 22, and 23 and 24. The whole series is 38 volumes, so I'm steadily making my way towards the end of that. And so far, I am enjoying it a lot. There was actually, last time I read it, there was one story, I can't remember too well, but it lasted an entire volume's worth, which I thought was straining a bit. Like, Ranma Half, one of the great things is how most stories tend to end in like 3 chapters. So they're quick and enjoyable. I can't remember the exact specificness, but I did think that story dragged on a bit. So maybe that's part of why some people started to say that the later parts of Ranma Half tended to become weaker than the first parts. But so far, I'm still enjoying Ranma Half a lot, and I can't wait to be able to finish the entire series at some point. But I'm still just making my way. After that, we have some more Dr. Slump. Dr. Slump is, for if you guys are unaware, it's the first big hit of Akira Toriyama, the guy who created Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z. And Dr. Slump is a comedy series, a very crude comedy series. Some people have actually compared it to, like they've said, it's kind of like the South Park of Japan. Which I guess kind of, I wouldn't say go so far as to say that. South Park I kind of compare more to being more satirical of pop culture. Dr. Slump is very much a case where you don't need to know about pop culture to enjoy it. But it is like very crude and crass. But it is very difficult to talk about Dr. Slump. It's so off-the-wall bonkers. And in fact, actually, something that is kind of similar-ish to South Park about it is just like how South Park's creators create each episode in a week. Akira Toriyama, he wouldn't actually come up with the story until his editor rung him up and said, what's the story now? And he'd come up with all of it on the spot, and then he'd start drawing it. So both of South Park and Dr. Slump had very rapid releases, I should say, in terms of like story and idea creation. But so far, I have to say that Dr. Slump is the most enjoyable Akira Toriyama thing I've come across. I wasn't keen on Dragon Ball Z. I watched the first 50 episodes of Dragon Ball. I have the other 100 to watch now. I've enjoyed the first 50. I enjoy his comedy a lot more than his action sequences. But so far, Dr. Slump is the best thing that I've read from him. Besides that, then another little continuation is Higurashi. This is the, what the hell is it? Beyond Midnight arc, which I have no idea what the Beyond Midnight arc is about. Unlike the previous 8 volumes that I've picked up, which were all adaptations of the arcs from the video games, I'm not sure if it has anything to do with the video games. But anyway, my point with Higurashi is, again, Higurashi was another series which I really enjoyed. I wanted to continue for a very long time, but the price of the manga went up, and that kind of put me off. So it wasn't until recently that I decided I'd start trying to get back into it. I actually wanted to pick up the next arc after this, which was 4 volumes long. But one of the volumes is actually out of print, which is a shame. I'm hoping that by the time I get to my next manga haul, that maybe that volume will be back into print. And now would be a good time for Yen Press to do a re-release of the Higurashi series. When I say re-release, I should say a reprint. Because the anime is coming out in America now. The Sentai Filmworks are releasing both seasons. So I think that would probably work well. You know, kind of the anime is coming out, let's do a reprint of the manga. So I have no idea what the story is in this. I do like the fact that the art is changing, like each arc gets a different artist. I think that's a very nice little touch, and also gives the artists a little chance to kind of show off their stuff and be able to, you know, say, okay, I can draw it like this. This is good art. Give me something to work on somewhere else. This is a good way, kind of jumping off point, I should say. So, quite enjoying Higurashi from what I've read before, and I'll be interested to see what the story is, because I'm not 100% sure who the character on the cover is. It kind of reminds me of, what's her name? Miyana Shion? I can't remember which one was the one, but I'm not sure. Maybe it's a relative, but I'll have to see about that. After that, we have my continuing love of Nana. Actually, just one sec. Of Nana. I picked up the next 3 volumes. Last time, I believe, I picked up Paradise Kiss just to kind of prolong my reading of Nana. As everyone probably knows at this point, Nana's been on hiatus for a very long time, since there was some kind of wrist injury to do with Aizawa, which is a real shame. But the point with Nana being that Nana is tied with my favourite shoujo manga of all time, my other one being The Devil and Her Love Song. But Nana, so far, I'm really, really loving. I think it's a fantastic series. I can see why it's the all-time best-selling shoujo title. It is really, really good, and I would highly, highly recommend it. It's just, I want to take my time reading it, you know, because, you know, there's only a finite amount of it. And eventually I'm going to get to the point where I get to the last volume released, and I'm going to have to wait for a long time if Aizawa ever comes back to the series. I'd be surprised, like, if she ever does come back to manga, she surely will come back to Nana. It's not like she'll come back to manga and, you know, do some other series. She'll continue on Nana. So the only question, I guess, is if she will come back to manga. I'm hoping she will, but because I really do love Nana so much. After that, we have a finishing of another series. This being Millennium Snow. I've actually had the first 3 volumes for quite a while now. I've read the very first volume, I enjoyed it. It's from the creator of Ouran High School Host Club, by the way. And I read the first volume and I thought it was very interesting. But when I learned that number 3 and 4 were coming out, I decided I'd wait on them. Actually, that's something very important I should probably point out. She actually did Millennium Snow Volume 1 and 2 before she did Ouran High School Host Club. And once she finished Ouran High School Host Club, she actually came back then to do Volumes 3 and 4 of Millennium Snow. So there's a huge, huge gap between when 2 came out and when 3 came out. And there's actually a slight change in art style. She clearly did try to do the art style that she did in the past, but clearly it's way more refined than the original art style, which is fine. It'll just be interesting to go from Volume 2 to Volume 3 and to see the jump in artistic quality. But from what I remember, I enjoyed Volume 1. And it's only a 4-volume series, so I'm looking forward to doing all that. And then she's doing a new series now. It's about some kind of film club, but I've heard it's a very good read. God, I can't remember it, but I'm looking forward to checking that out as well. I quite enjoy the works of Bisco Hattery. After that, I'm continuing on my light novels with Spice and Wolf. I've picked up Volumes 5 and Volume 6. Spice and Wolf, the light novels, will be finishing soon in English. And of course, I've always loved Spice and Wolf. Some people find it slow and they find like the economics of it confusing. But I just think that there is such genuine charm between Holo and Lawrence. It's such a really, really entertaining series. Very enjoyable. And I just can't wait to be able to continue it on. I remember I was tempted recently to just buy it a whole lot, but I thought I should probably make a progress in some other areas of, you know, like manga and light novels, rather than just buying like the entire lot of Spice and Wolf. So I think buying like 2 volumes of Volume 5 and Volume 6 will be good. I know Volume 5 apparently is the novel that they adapted, I think they adapted, for like the second half of the second season of the anime, and that would make it the last part of Spice Wolf that was adapted into anime. Volume 6 then will be a completely new story. Probably? I'm not sure. I'm hoping that, that I'm saying it right. From what I've heard, it's that case, but I'll just have to see once I read them. But I'm really looking forward to them. After that, we have the final volume of Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, Volume 12. I'm thinking of rereading all of Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin. Basically, I remember reading the first volume of it back in the summer of, I believe it was 2013, which is ages ago when you think about it now, and I haven't actually read that first volume since then. So I'm thinking that before I read this, actually in my last haul I got, I believe it was, I'm just trying to think, was it 10, is it 9, 10? Yeah, 9, 10, 11. I got those, but I haven't actually read them yet because my plan was to get this, and then when I'm ready to try to finish off Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, to start from the beginning again and just read through. That way all the characters and their dramas will be fresh in my mind, and I'll probably be able to get maximum enjoyment out of that. But as you guys know, Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin is one of my favourite manga series. It is utterly good. So good. And I just really, really enjoy it. And I highly, highly recommend you guys pick it up. I know it's somewhat expensive with these, you know, hardcover editions, but these are really, really beautiful. You've got amazing colour pages. All the pages themselves are glossy. So like really high quality paper. The story itself is fantastic. The art is fantastic. There's really no reason why you guys shouldn't be on the Mobile Suit Gundam Origin manga boat. You guys just have to get onto that boat. Besides that, I believe the last lot of manga that I picked up... Oh, no. Actually, there's a last piece of manga after this. I just remembered. But, okay, so second last. Basically, this is a series that it was actually one of the first manga series I began, but for a long time I haven't actually picked up any more volumes of it. But now I decided I'd just buy the entire rest of the series, and that is the entire rest of the Nausicaa manga. Now, some of you might be asking me, why did I buy these thin kind of paperback editions rather than getting that huge hardcover edition? And there's a couple of reasons for it. First reason is that it's cheaper to get these. You see, not cheaper now. What I mean is, when I first started it, I got volumes 1 and 2, and I found volume 4 cheap. And I did the math, and buying volumes 3, 5, 6, and 7 is cheaper than buying all of the hardcover edition. So I just thought I'd save myself some money just getting these. And the other thing is that I tend to prefer to hold my manga when I read it. And those Nausicaa manga, like the hardcover one, like even though it looks beautiful, I can imagine it would be like a humongous strain on my hand because of the sheer size of it. It's hardcover, huge amounts of pages, and it's like huge graphic novel size. I just don't think that I'd be able to enjoy it with all that strain on my hand. So I just thought, why not just pick up the actual singles? I kind of like these, like the big thin releases of the Nausicaa manga. They're kind of charming. I'm really looking forward to finishing off this series. I remember like the artwork is always just utterly gorgeous in this, and of course it's a masterpiece. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. I love the movie a lot, and I remember enjoying the first 2 volumes that I read of the manga a lot, even though they were very close to the actual movie. But this is all fresh content, like content that was unadapted into the movie, so I'm looking forward to that a lot. And then my final kind of pickup in terms of manga is finishing another manga that I have been picking up for a very, very long time. As you guys might know, when I first bought manga, my very first purchase of manga was of 2 volumes. It was of the first volume of Soul Eater and the first volume of Naruto. And I've been collecting those 2 series for a while now. I've still yet to finish off Soul Eater, but I have now decided that here, this is the 3rd box set, the 3rd manga box set, I should say, of Naruto, which contains the volumes 49 to 72. Conveniently, I actually had collected up to volume 48 of the manga, like when I was buying the individual volumes. So this will completely finish off my Naruto collection. And that's kind of interesting. I mean, a lot of people are not keen on like a lot of the later aspects of Naruto. They don't like the ending. They don't like how a certain character, a certain villain, I should say, came out of nowhere. How certain character developments. But you know, I've been collecting this series for such a long time, and Naruto's been such an enjoyable series. I just want to finish it off, and to know the whole story, and to have an enjoyment of it. And of course, now it'll probably be. I'm fairly sure this is my longest manga series that I've collected. Because that means, like, with this, I have 72 volumes of this series. I know there's, I think there's more One Piece volumes in English than there are Naruto volumes, but I only have the first 15 volumes of One Piece. So this is my longest, series that I own, which is very interesting. If you guys want to know any information, first of all, this is what it looks like on the inside. You have this picture of Naruto and Sasuke, and then you have the actual volumes themselves. It comes with 2 extras. The first extra is a bonus story. This is, I think, meant to be some kind of prequel to the Road to Ninja movie, which I haven't seen. I believe that moviegoers actually, like the first, I don't know, how many moviegoers? Was it 1 million? Was it 1,000? I can't remember how many people it was. But they actually got this in Japan when they went to the movie. And Viz have translated this. Now, I think they translated this previously. It says here that it contains material that was originally published in Naruto, the official fan book. So if you guys already picked that up, this really doesn't have that much to offer you, I'd say, besides being itself. But as someone who hasn't picked that up, it looks very interesting. Well, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't know. But it's a nice little extra to have. And you get a nice little big kind of interview with Masashi Kishimoto as well. Like, it's the Naruto in the beginning. Talking to him and, asking him questions. So some very interesting information to have from that. And of course, nice little page there. Thank you, Masashi Kishimoto. Maybe we should all thank him. I mean, even if a lot of people don't like how he developed the story later, no one can say that Naruto didn't have a big impact on their enjoyment, at least in terms of those who began out with Naruto. And the other little extra is a poster. You have 2 sides to this poster. You have this side, which looks very nice. I've seen this image a lot. I think this might actually be the cover that they used for that yearbook thing. I think, how Weekly Shonen Jump, the digital Viz one. I think if you had an annual subscription to it, I think you got like a yearbook thing or something, and I think this was the cover. You also have this very nice cover here of Naruto kind of looking out, and QB, the Ninetales, just kind of snoozing in the background, which is a bit of an odd image, but very charming nonetheless. So some very nice little extras, and it'll be nice to finally finish this series, something that I've been collecting for quite a while now. I believe I picked up the first volume back in 2009 or something, so 7 years ago. Wow. That's all the manga I picked up. Huge amount of reading to do with that. But I'm looking forward to pretty much everything. I guess why would I pick it up if I wasn't looking forward to it? In terms of anime, there isn't nearly as much. I've pre-ordered a couple of things, but they're one thing is coming in May, the other thing is right now the release date is October, but in all likelihood they're going to bring it forward. But what I did pick up, which I'm very excited about, is the original Mobile Suit Gundam series, which is what Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin adapts. When I say adapts, what I mean, it's like a reinterpretation of it, which is why I've made the decision to wait until I've actually finished Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin before I actually watched the original series. I've read through all the extras that are in the Gundam Origin stuff that I've read so far, and it lists a lot of changes to the story, which many of them seem to be better in terms of the manga than would be the original anime. So I'm honestly thinking that I'll probably enjoy the Origin more than I will the original anime series, but I'm still looking forward to seeing the anime series, and it'll be this continuation, obviously, which they will use for Zeta Gundam, which I've heard Zeta Gundam is meant to be one of the best Gundam series, so I'm looking forward to seeing Zeta Gundam. With this, even though I didn't get the box that came with the first lot of Mobile Suit Gundam, the first part, I got the art book that came with the second part, and this art book's very nice. It's got a lot of like nice little shots of like the Gundams themselves. Well, not the Gundams, I should say, the suits themselves. You got some little kind of character design stuff like this, for instance. And then you also got, I believe, stuff like the actual suits themselves, like just the designs of that and all that, which are very nice. I've flicked through this several times, and I recognize a lot of the stuff from the actual Gundam Origin manga. So, very nice little extra overall. Not quite as comprehensive as I would have liked. I was hoping that Anime Limited, when they picked up Mobile Suit Gundam, that they'd give it an Ultimate Edition, considering how utterly huge influence it had. That maybe they have an Ultimate Edition, they'd have like a huge amount of like extras with it, like behind the scenes. They'd have like, you know, like art books, etc. Like big, huge amounts of art books. But it's a relatively standard release in comparison to what my hopes were. But even so, I'm not going to be picky. I'm still very happy to have picked this up and to pick up the actual Gundam series, like the first Gundam series themselves. And besides that, the other thing, which is kind of an oddity, in a sense, it is anime, but it's kind of unusual. I picked this up secondhand, by the way, and this is the Short Piece collection. Now, I know you're looking at this and you're seeing the PS3 thing, and you're thinking, surely that's a game. Well, oddly enough, kinda. It's a collection of several things. Basically, Katsuhiro Otomo, the creator of Akira, he set up this project to kind of show off, artists to be able to do like the short movies that they want, and basically this is a collection of them. So you have stuff like Possessions, Combustible, Gambo, A Farewell to Weapons. Either Possessions or Combustible was nominated for an Oscar. I'm not sure which one it was, but they're meant to be really, really good. And then the fifth thing is actually a video game, which is why it's part of a video game. So you can watch the anime, and I think the anime altogether added up to about 68 minutes. And then you have the video game, which I think is meant to be short. I think it's meant to only be 2 hours long. That's the longest day game. I'm not sure what type of game it is. It says a fast-paced action game set in modern Japan. But overall, I've heard very positive things about this collection. The biggest criticism of it at the time was the price point. The fact that you were paying, I don't know, like €40 for what is all of the anime added together. It was only 68 minutes long, and the game itself, I think, lasts only 2 hours. But I picked this up for a $5, which I'm very happy to have paid that much price for. So overall, really happy with this. So that's my entire haul. As you can see, I got a huge amount of reading to do, and a little bit of watching to do. Not nearly as much as the reading, but I'm very happy with that. I'm still catching up on some of the early stuff. As I said, I did this order a little earlier than I would normally do because of the fact that the 5% voucher thing was going to expire. So I'm still in the process of reading Claymore, for instance, and then after that I think I have Maria the Virgin Witch to read, as well as Velveteen Mandela. But I'm very happy to own these anyway, because, you know, I'm looking forward to all of them, looking forward to reading all of them. And also it's nice to finish off some series, like for example, finishing off Naruto, finishing off Mobile Suit Gundam The Origin, finishing off Nausicaa and Millennium Snow, etc, etc. Hopefully you guys found this video interesting and informative. If you guys want to comment on any of the series that I've spoken about in this, you can do so. I'll be very much looking forward to be able to discuss your opinions of said series. And yeah, that's my entire haul. So thanks for watching. Don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and bye-bye.